A river's main thing that it does is that it erodes the land around it, erodes downwards, it transports sediment from the top of a valley to the sea. If a piece of plastic enters the river at the top of the valley, by the time it's reached the sea, it's in 10,000 tiny little pieces. Because the river just grinds it, it acts like a huge big coffee grinder. Anything that goes into it gets ground up into smaller and smaller particles till the sand, or beyond smaller than sand, and that's when they turn into microplastics.
Even if we stop using plastic now, in 100 years we will have millions of microplastics in the water, in the air, in the environment in general. And that is irreversible. We test the water from Crosby Beach, from the Mersey River. We filter it in a glass fiber filter. And then, to analyze it, we took the glass fiber filter in aluminium container. We analyze it in the microscope, where we check if there are microplastics or not. So we filter approximately 60 ml. In these 60 ml, we found some pellets, very spherical particles, also fibers. But we can try to reduce it for the future generations at least.
Currently out in the Cargill litter collection. So yeah, it's a litter collection my company APEM Limited have been doing for a number of years now. The most frequent kind of litter we come across is baby wipes, tissues, plastic, any of that polystyrene wrap that is used in packaging. But it's basically, so you have an overflow pipe used in heavy rainfall when the normal sewage system cannot cope with the amount of water going through it, it overflows into the ship canal. So anything that isn't really biodegradable, such as nappies, other cleaning products, get flushed down toilets and end up here, and usually wrapped around vegetation and unfortunately go stale and quite hard, and then it's very difficult to get that off. I suppose in the ship canal itself, basically it's people's rubbish, cups of coffee, takeaway bags, bin bags, a lot of bottles.
Let's talk about England. Unfortunately, here, yes, there is no so intense recycling. For example, in Germany, they separate recycling in the type of the plastic, so they know that this plastic can recyclable in that way and that plastic in that way. Here it is more general, and sometimes they are the landfills that again they don't prevent from going to the environment. So it needs to be, I know that it needs a lot of money, but it needs because it is our ecosystem where we live, it's our health. So we need to have something more organized and don't send, for example, Indonesia, and that they are the illegal ones that they throw them in the Indian Ocean, the plastic. So I test a very famous brand water bottle. People, they prefer to drink bottled water instead of tap water because they think that it's safer. Maybe safer from heavy metals, for example, but not from microplastics. So while I was testing, I found a lot of microplastics in 200 ml. That means that it's very dangerous when we are drinking, because the microplastics, they don't dissolve in our bodies. So they accumulate in our body, they can cause even clogs.
There's been a recent study by Hubbub, an environmental charity based in London, and they surveyed people of all ages about their attitudes to litter and whether they litter, and asked people honestly, do they litter or not? And it's really, really interesting, because the age groups that littered the most were the 12 to the 25s. So the young children said they didn't do it. Children of high school, university age and beyond, young adults, admitted to littering, and then as we progressed through the ages, we were getting more and more sort of offended of Prestwich or outraged of Woking, who found it insulting that young people would drop litter, even though people of their generation still drop litter themselves. It's not a generational thing, but there is most definitely an age group. Through education, through taking more young people out, speaking to them about the environment, we can educate people and they'll stop us doing it, because it's the best age to learn to do something or not to do something. And we've been here today in Croxteth Park with volunteers from Coca-Cola, and the numbers of plastic bottles, cans, crisp packets, the products that we use day to day for our lunches, for our meal deals, etc., just littering the environment.
We're launching our Plastic Free Mersey event today, and that's a partnership approach with industry, Thames 21, the Rivers Trust from London, who are helping us with a new survey method to understand how much plastic is in our rivers and to sort that plastic into its different types. And that information will then be used with our industry partners from the waste industry and the plastics industries to come up with solutions to how we tackle litter pollution in the River Mersey.
What we can bring to the party is Operation Clean Sweep. We ask CEOs of companies to sign a pledge to ensure that their companies will introduce measures which prevent the loss of plastics raw materials in the form of pellets from escaping from their plants.
I'm zero waste, as zero waste as I can be anyway, which is essentially more awareness about our planet, what we're throwing away, our footprint on this earth, and trying to minimise the amount of things that you throw away. I decided to become zero waste. I'd lived and worked in Tanzania for a few years, and there all the food is sold in markets. So you go to the market, there are buckets of potatoes, buckets of tomatoes. There's no waste, there's no packaging, nothing. And when I moved back, I had a huge reverse culture shock, really, and overwhelming kind of overstimulation of stuff. There's been some difficulties, partly for myself. I have a guilty pleasure of popcorn, so I still buy that. I love it. Probably the most challenging thing that I found in the recent years is that I have a housemate, and I'm sharing her house. I'm living in her house, so any changes that I make, I don't want to sort of make them as a way of, you should be living better, you should be doing this. That's not what it's about. It's, slow changes. There are some initial startup costs with things, but it can be done so cheaply. Like, I am a student, I don't spend a lot of money on this. So this is an old lemonade bottle, glass bottle, and this is from an old soap dispenser that I just reuse now for fabric conditioner. So I guess things on an individual level, things are reducing plastic where possible. So if you keep your jars, keep things like that. Just be mindful of what you're buying and whether it needs to go in a plastic bag, if you can use a tote or a brown paper bag instead. A lot of people kind of do say, oh, well, the individual difference you make, that's nothing. But I actually think it is. We each make a difference. If we can make small changes, then accumulatively, there's a ripple effect, and that's big changes. And yes, corporations and supermarkets especially, they use mass amounts of plastic and waste, and food. So much food goes to waste. But if on an individual level you can be accountable for yourself and what you use and what you're putting, taking from the earth and putting back into it, you can make a difference as well.
So I think in our area, I can only see good things happening. As people are becoming more conscious and more environmentally aware and actually value rivers, I can only see that the ecology and the water quality in the Mersey and its connecting rivers is going to improve. We're very lucky now, we've got a great waste network, we've got a really fantastic recycling network. People are becoming more and more aware of their responsibility as families and as individuals and as businesses towards protecting the environment. No one really consciously thinks that, I'm going to go out and pollute the river today, because the people just don't do that. When it happens, sometimes it's by accident or by lack of thought, but overall there's a positive movement, and I think that is going to continue to take place in coming years, and I think the future's bright for the River Mersey.